What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Johnny Mack here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that if you are looking for a community that is open to discussion as far as mentorship, conservation, the wild, becoming a better person, and all of that, there is a group for you on Facebook, and it is called Soul Seekers. Soul Seekers, we are all about making ourselves a better person. We're all about making sure hunting lasts for generations to come and encouraging people to get plugged in. Whether you are someone who has something to give or someone who needs to soak it up like a sponge, this is a community for you, and I strongly encourage you that if you're on Facebook to join Soul Seekers, and if you're not on Facebook, hop on there just for that group. It is only going to be as powerful as we all make it. And so just remember that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you, and that you can't outgive good. You can't outgive good, people. I want you to understand that, and I want you to believe it, because when we believe that and we lead with courage and we lead with intention, lives are changed, lives are transformed, just like on this podcast, transformation through primal adventure. Be blessed. Enjoy this episode. Talk soon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by T&K Hunting Gear. If you haven't heard about T&K, then it's about time you do. I've been using T&K gear out in the field and on hunts and have fallen in love with their stuff. T&K is veteran-owned and 100% made in America using only American-made products. All their gear is covered under a lifetime warranty with no questions asked. If it breaks or fails, they will fix it or replace it for free. T&K is your resource for bino harnesses, bow slings, and a lot more amazing gear. For more information about T&K hunting gear, go to tnkhunting.com or search for them on Facebook and Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Freedom on and stay soulful. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazy Elk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today we are going to be diving into the topic of identifying what you want. So, if you've been following along this podcast for some time now, you'll understand that I talk about what it is that you want, and when you identify what you want, you always get what you want. And so we're going to dive into this and unpack it and expand it a little bit more and paint a visual picture for all of you. So first off, I got to ask you, and as you're driving in your car or you are listening to this on a treadmill or exercising, whatever it is, I want you to stop and I want you to ask yourself, what do you want? What is it in your life that you want? If you cannot identify and answer that, that is an issue. First and foremost, no one's ever going to know what you want other than yourself. And if you don't know what you want in your life, then what are you working towards? What's your goal? What are you trying to identify in your life? It's like, well, this is a Soulful Hunter, so it's like shooting at a target and not having a target because you don't know what your target is. So obviously you're never going to hit the mark if you don't know what you're aiming at. So identifying what it is that you want in life is the one of the first hurdles in accomplishing what you want and having fulfillment in your life and feeling like a sense of purpose is with you. And it's like, oh man, okay, all these things are possible because you took the time to identify what it is that you want in life. And it's very simple and very easy, and yet you need to identify it. This is for you to live a better and healthier life and more fulfilled life. It stems from identifying what you want. So, first off, if you're unhappy with your job, unhappy in your marriage, you're unhappy with how life is going for you right now, you're unhappy with your bank account, you're unhappy with, you name it. So, that is something that you get to identify as in what you are unhappy about. So if you had something that then made you happy, what is it that you want? So the reason why it's so important to go through this process in identifying what it is that you want in your daily life is so that you know what to work towards. I know that I want to have a podcast every week, releasing weekly episodes, and even now I'm releasing 2 episodes a week. If I want it bad enough, I'm going to go through the process and the steps in order to get me to that conclusion. If I want a cheeseburger, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get a cheeseburger if I want it bad enough. America was built on this American dream that anything is possible. And I truly believe that anything is possible. The question is what are you willing to do or go through in order to accomplish what you want? What are you willing to sacrifice in your own life to accomplish in order to get what you want? So if you listen to this podcast, you know that I'm a school teacher. So when I talk to my students about this, it's like, I obviously do not want to be a millionaire. And would I love to be a millionaire? Yes, absolutely. But I don't want to be a millionaire. That is not a strong desire for me. Because if that was what I wanted, I wouldn't be a school teacher. Because obviously, as a school teacher, I'm not going to become a millionaire. So therefore, I've already concluded it's not about the money for me, or at least that specific money amount. I want to be a great hunter. Okay, so as I've gone through this process of learning how to hunt, I know that I want to get to a point in which I know how to hunt and I know how to hunt effectively. And how do I measure that outcome? Well, when I get to lay eyes upon my target. Sometimes, when you're dealing with animals, for example, you might not always run into them. However, persistence pays off, and if you want it bad enough, you will accomplish it. So I want you to start reflecting, because you heard me talk about on this podcast before, inward reflection leads to outward correction. Inward reflection leads to outward correction. When you take the time to stop and reflect and identify what it is in your life that you want, you will have outward correction. You will have the things that you want on the outside. I want to see some things change politically in this state and in this country. I don't want it bad enough to sacrifice my job or my marriage or the safety of my family and my children. So therefore, I don't want it that bad. And you got to ask yourself, if you're someone who's disagreeing with the political climate of what's going on in the world right now, then you obviously don't want it that bad in order to risk something else. Because if you really wanted it that bad, you would be out working towards accomplishing what it is that you want. So I'm going to take you through a couple questions right here to help you identify what it is that you want in life. So one of the things is like, what are you most passionate about? Because our passion lies in the things that we love and we find fulfilling. So we want to be fulfilled as humans. How do we go about doing that? Well, we don't really worry about the how as much as we worry about the what. When we identify the what, the how kind of just takes care of itself. So I wanted to learn how to hunt. I didn't know how to start hunting, but when I learned and set the goal to identify, I want to be a great hunter. The how, the process just started unfolding as I journeyed and kept my eye on the prize. So, what are you most passionate about? Because that can help you identify what it is that you want in life. Do you want peace? Do you want time? Do you want money? Do you want love? Do you want acceptance? Do you want and by the way, it's not just a one thing. It can be multiple things. This is an and life. You get to live this and this. I do believe in the mindset of abundance and that the universe is conspiring for me, not against me. And so at the end of the day, I also want to make sure I'm working towards what I want. And once again, if you don't want it bad enough, you're never going to accomplish it. For example, and I think um, one of the most realistic things when talking about not wanting it bad enough is diet. So many people, are like, oh, I need to lose weight or I want to lose weight, but they don't really want it bad enough to sacrifice not eating healthy. They don't really want it bad enough. They don't really want that six pack or that body and able to feel confident without the shirt on. They don't want it bad enough that they're going to say, okay, I'm not overeating. I'm going to watch my portions. No, I'm not going to eat that donut or cookie, or I'm going to stop drinking as much, or these different things that are not contributing to me reaching my goal of what I want. And the thing is, it's okay to say, I don't want it bad enough. That's okay. And you get to rest in that. There's no judgment in you saying, I don't want it bad enough. So the question is then what do you want? Do you want to live a life of gluttony and eating whatever you want? Is that really what you want? Do you want to live long enough to see your grandchildren? Is that what you want? Do you want to live long enough to see your grandchildren but be in a sick bed? Or do you want to have a healthy body that you can play with them? And so these are all just general things. I'm not trying to attack or judge anyone. This is you taking the time to inwardly reflect so that you can identify what it is that you want in life so that you can get it. This is a soulful hunter. If you're not challenging yourself and your soul to create the life that you want, then what's the point? We're not results of the circumstances in our lives. If we were, then there would be no getting out. But we get to make this life what we want it. And that is the American dream. Anything is possible. We're not born into some serf class or slavery and being like, well, you're a slave, and so I was born a slave, I'm always going to be a slave. No, you get to make your own decisions. And it takes identifying what you want to help you on your journey of getting out of the circumstances in your lives and creating the life that you want. So, with that being said, what do you want? If you for the first time were like, I truly believe anything is possible and life had no limits, what would you be doing? Where would you be doing it at? What's holding you back? No risk, no reward. Once again, no risk, no reward. If you are not willing to risk, then you're never going to be willing to gain the reward. Just as I talk about quite often on this podcast, that you have to love yourself so that you can love others. If you don't invest in yourself, who is ever going to invest in you? Why would anyone else take a shot on you if you're not even willing to take a shot on yourself? That goes back to what you want. So many people in this world, and I was one of them. It wasn't until I went through a leadership training that I spent multiple times, weekend after weekend, in uncomfortable positions, being challenged on how I think and how I view my world. And when I was forced to go through this situation or experience, it really turned it around. And so I had a partner. We were sitting uncomfortably close. We were supposed to continually make eye contact the entire time. And one partner was saying to the other partner, "What do you want?" And then you'd answer, and then they say, "Okay, what else do you want?" "Okay, what else do you want?" "Okay, what else do you want?" To the point where it was all on the table. There was no more holding back. And when people say, "I don't know what they want," it's because they haven't taken the time to stop and actually challenge themselves or even acknowledge what they truly want. Sometimes people know what they want, they just don't want to share it. And when you speak it out loud, it becomes real and you're held accountable. And all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh man, oh, that was scary." Or what about judgment or whatever? It's like, dude, live your life. Live it. Why are you so afraid of judgment? Why are you so afraid of fear? Why are you so afraid of not being accepted or loved? It's a lot easier to call a spade and identify the things in life in which, you know, we want or don't want when people are real. In the Bible it says, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." So if you're playing a game of "I don't know," then that's not healthy for anybody. So identify what you want. Go deep. I know that as a hunter, I have goals. I have goals. One of the goals is I'm going to kill a spring turkey. One of the goals is to get Tony an elk or a buck this year. One of them is to pick up a sponsor, which I did already. One of them is to get published in Outdoor Life. That is something that is a goal that I put down, but I obviously don't want it bad enough yet because I have an opportunity to get into it, but I haven't sat down and written the article to get into Outdoor Life. So therefore, I don't want it that bad. So this is something that I'm sharing with you as I'm going and looking at my goal list. It's like, okay, but one of the things I do want is I want to shoot a mule deer. That is a goal for me this year. Now, these are just hunting specific goals. You know, if you were saying, "I want a better marriage," okay, now you want a better marriage. What does it take to get a better marriage? "I want more money. I want a better career. I want a new car. I want whatever." It's okay to identify these things. It doesn't mean you're materialistic. It doesn't mean you are a bad person. It doesn't mean any of that. I want you to take all those thoughts that come across your mind, and I want you to chuck them out the window. And I want you to take a deep breath and say, it's okay to identify and acknowledge what I want. Because in this life, we've been raised that when we talk about the I, it's selfish. "Well, you're being selfish again. You're being selfish again." Well, if you don't have some sort of selfishness to take care of your own self, then you are going to be unhappy. You're going to hold a grudge against people. You're going to get bitter. And you're going to have all these negative feelings towards others, resentment, because you did things for them and you didn't do things for you. With that being said, I want you to understand that I am not saying cast judgment or cast cares to the wind and be like, "Oh, willy-nilly, woo." Because at a certain point in your life, you also have responsibilities. For example, I have a responsibility to my wife and my 3 children. So Now, what I want also comes into play of what I want for them. And I know that me hunting every single day of my life sounds cool, but the minute that I do something like that, I am also not fulfilling my wife or taking care of my marriage or being the parent that I want to be and all that. So, your wants, you also need to classify and arrange in order that is fulfilling to you and something that you can accomplish. So, as we're going through this, I really want you to go. It's like, okay, where do I want to go? What do I want 2021 to look like? What do I want this week to look like? What do I want this month to look like? What do I want out of this moment? What do I want out of this experience? What do I want? What do I want? I hope you've heard me say this enough on this podcast that it's like stuck in your head. What do I want? What do I want? I want freedom. I want justice. I want liberty. I want financial freedom, political freedom. I want to not be judged. And so now judgment is out of my control. But how I can respond is I can control how I respond to judgment. Therefore, I can accomplish what I want because once I do that, I'm no longer giving my power away. So I know this podcast is a little random and out of the ordinary. However, it's not out of the ordinary because when you identify what you want, you're taking care of your soul. And that is what the Soulful Hunter is all about. Yes, we talk hunting on Monday episodes, and on Thursday episodes we dive into the root of things. And I think this is a podcast topic that not many people would hear typically. I never even heard this, maybe until 2 years ago. And isn't that sad? Why aren't public education asking kids and students, hey, what do you want? So often it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? But it's like, what do you want? And then be like, okay, if that's what you want, this is the avenue that's going to get you there or point them in the right direction. Did anyone ever ask you what you want? And then with that, what are you willing to pay? There's always a cost. There's a cost for everything. And it's not that it's always monetary, but it's a transaction. Freedom isn't free. In order to get freedom, there's a cost to freedom. So I hope you guys have gotten a lot out of this episode. If you have questions and you want to identify more about what you want and you have questions that I can support you on, please feel free to reach out to me at the Soulful Hunter. And, we're in this together. This podcast is a community of support. And I also want to encourage you to give good, and you never can outgive good. Give good not only to yourself, but to your family, your marriage, your coworkers, the community. Give good out into this world because you're never going to be able to outgive good. And when that happens, the transformation is going to happen. And then you lead it into the hunting realm, and we talk about mentorship as conservation. And when you give and you mentor others, no matter how little or how much knowledge you feel like you always have something to provide for other people. And that's a perspective. And that is your perspective, because it doesn't matter how many times something's been written about or spoken about or told about or shown. It's never been told, shown, spoken about, or written about by you. You are special. You are loved. You are capable. You can do this. And in order for you to accomplish that, you need to identify what it is that you want. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode, everybody. I'm Johnny Mack. Be blessed, freedom on, and as always, stay soulful.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.